Perfect. Yeah. So we'll get started here just with Emerita. So David Gower, I see you there. What is the current status of the legal dispute over the Asna Collar mine? Are they expecting a decision in June? And assuming they're victorious, Emerita being they, will Minera, Los Frailes / Menorbis / Grupo Mexico have any recourse to appeal?
The status is as much as it has been. The people that were charged with the corruption charges did file an appeal, and this has been through numerous appeals already, about a month ago or so, and it was rejected immediately by the High Court. So essentially, at this point, the status of the trial is a sentencing process. And really, there are 9 people charged in this process, 2 from the company and 7 from the government. If even one of them is found guilty, then this is over for us. The law the part that we're focused on, and we're really not too focused on what the penalties are going to be. We just want the crime firmly established, because under the public tender laws, this was a public tender. If there's a crime committed in the awarding of a tender, that bid must be disqualified, and it must go to the next highest bidder. And we were the only other bidder in the process that was qualified. So we don't know exactly the timing. I've heard it should be imminent. The amount of time that the 5 judges who are doing this part of the process have had the material, and they've been through a couple of appeals over the last few years, so they're already very well familiar with all of the information anyway, so we don't expect it to take too long. So I am told perhaps this month, but given it's a process that's not in our control, I would just suggest that it'll be when it is, but we're really close to the end. It's been 7 years, and we've been through many appeals through that process, and it's essentially at the end now.
Okay, great. And same question from John. What are their plans for Ontario land claim in the vicinity of Paymogo? Will they do any exploration there this year?
Yeah, so we haven't really announced that one yet, but it is on the website and would be in the next press release. So we've expanded the land position on the Iberia Belt West project. It's not finalized we haven't actually received the license. However, it has been approved by the government, and they have put it on their website. So that at that point, nobody else can get it. We can't work it quite yet. Our intention will be to work it later in the year. There are 3 known mineralized zones on those claims. And if you look at what we have adjacent to it on Iberia Belt West, or Paymogo as you refer to it, it really looks very much like what you would see, say, on the south flank in the Matagami camp in Quebec, where you've got a number of deposits and mineralized zones along a timeline, which in Quebec, of course, would be the key to a fight. But so it's very prospective ground. There's some small historical workings, very old, and at least 3 known mineralized zones there, as well as what we're planning to drill.
Okay, and last one here from John. When do they expect to start exploration on the newly acquired Nuevo Tintillo property?
Nuevo Tintillo, we are going through the process of getting the approval for the work program now. It's similar to Infanta, where we've got the drill set up presently, in that it's classified. It has no restrictions in terms of development through the environmental department. So that one we can permit fairly quickly through the mines department. We don't have to do any kind of an EA to start the work there. So I would say later in the summer we should be in a position to start a program there. If you saw the release last week, there are It's quite a large property, and there are 8 zones of either mineralization or small past producers, small open pits along that structure, very close to Asnocoir, and also very close to where Pan Global is working. I think they're actually tied on to the south.
Hey, great. We did just receive a chat question here from Dr. Jones, so it is a 2-part question. I'll ask the first part. Can David Gower explain the possible upside of the development aspects of Paymogo utilizing a single mill complex? Comment on what minimum value per ton is needed to compared to the historically high grade values of La Infanta and Romanera.
Oh wow, that's a big question. The Infanta is a very high grade deposit. It's, you know, we're looking at holes there that have between 2 and 4% copper and typically 12 to 25% zinc with, you know, 100 to 300 grams per ton silver. So without just picking the highest grades, if you look at today's metal prices, the value of that rock is over $1,000 a ton, and that's it. The deposit comes to surface. So the first holes that we expect to drill here will be confirmation holes, because this has not been drilled since the 80s. So we need to do some of that work in order to convert it to 43-101. So that's the first results, but we've also got evidence based on our mapping that it was drilled over about a 450 meter strike length by Phelps Dodge in the 80s, and that was the extent of the property at the time. We've mapped the mineralization, and Rio Tinto, who had the surrounding ground at the time, did some drilling that shows it to be about 1.2 kilometers of mineralization. So that drilling will significantly increase that. The mining should be relatively low cost. It's going to be a ramp access underground, fairly straightforward. It's only been drilled to about 110 meters. We hope to take it down to about 300 meters. Romanera is a much thicker deposit. It's a 34 million ton resource based on work by Rio Tinto in around the same time in the 80s. Prior to that, it was held by Asturiana Zinc, which did some drilling in the 60s and discovered it. It was a zinc-rich deposit, which in those days everything was about copper. So they're only about 8 kilometers apart. So definitely a combined, a single mill would be in the cards for those operations. And in fact, there's a third deposit, El Cura, which is about halfway in between. So it's El Cura, we don't have drill hole data for. We have about 50 holes for each of the others, but it was mined about a century ago for copper, gold, and silver. And Rio Tinto did do some drilling. We just don't have the data. So that'll also be drilled. So, you know, if you think about Romanera, will have, it's lower grade than Infanta, but still very good grade. Could be $300 to $400 a ton rock. Infanta could be over 1,000. These are not 43-101 numbers. I'll make that very clear. These are kind of in situ gross metal values. We would see costs, you know, in, let's say, $100 to even $120 a ton for mining milling of this material. The margins will be extremely good, you know, if we're anywhere in a price environment close to where we are today.
Hey, great.
What was the last part of that question? I think I answered most of it. But
what minimum value per ton is needed compared to the historically high grade values at La Infanta and Romanera?
Okay, I think that was the last thing I said, yeah.
All right, one more here. This one is about the El Cura historical grades. Just want some information about those grades in the past. I'm just trying to find you here, if you're still here, David.
I don't really have a lot of information on the historical grades from El Cura at this point. I mean, there are some high grade copper values there. There's actually a shaft there and some underground development from about, well, we think it's probably a century ago. And of course, in those days, there was very little market for zinc. I mean, copper was king, as it is really still today, and precious metals. So we believe the reason that Alcura was focused on is it's the most copper rich of the three systems. Although Infanta is very copper rich, it would have been difficult in those days in terms of separating the zinc from the copper, where Alcura is more of a pure copper play, it seems. So we are getting a line on some of that drilling that was done there, and we are starting the geophysics, and a very senior geophysicist from the region has access to some data that he's going to acquire for us. So I can give you a better update on that in the near future.